Hello and welcome to Cutting Through the Bud in the Post-Truth Apocalypse. I'm Ben, and as always I'm hanging out with Mike.
Hello.
Claire.
Hey.
And Pete.
Hello.
This week we're going to talk about the Ausso One alien encounter.
Ooh.
Can we do a very quick RIP though, please?
Who's gone?
Robbie Coltrane.
Oh shit, yeah, R.I.P.D. to Robbie Coltrane.
Because what a legend. All throughout all of our lives we've all watched him on telly. Whether it was Cracker, when he was a detective.
Nuns on the Run.
Nuns on the Run, brilliant
Nuns
film.
on the Run.
Brilliant film, classic.
That's a good film, man.
But that film
obviously worldly known as Hagrid.
Of course,
So
yeah.
R.I.P. Robbie Coltrane, such a shame.
And R.I.P. Jessica Fletcher.
Yes.
She has a
Dame. Oh, what's this?
Angela Lansbury, is it?
Angela Lansbury. Yeah, 96 though. Good innings for her. You know what I mean?
Is she the one in Game of Thrones?
No.
No.
Murder, She Wrote.
Murder, She Wrote.
Oh right, 'cause she died recently.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying
Bed
that.
Knobs and Broomsticks.
Oh right, I got
She
you.
did
Okay.
the cup. No, not the cup. The.
Two Girls, One Cup.
No, she really didn't. I know, I would watch that. I've just got the image of that in my head now. Thanks for that, mate.
Angela Lansbury sitting in a cup.
Who was eating it though?
Columbo.
Give it to me.
Oh, just one more thing.
With his little squinty eye. That's why he had a squinty eye. I got a nugget in my eye.
Hey, ship blindness affects 1 in 4.
R.I.P. Angela Lansbury and Robbie Coltrane.
Right, well, yeah, in a week where I had the flu, so I sound a little bit
Gravelly.
Although some might say it might add gravitas and sexiness to my voice. Only some.
It's going to take more than that, mate.
No. Well, give it a go. Yeah, so let's thank some return listeners and we'll crack on with the show. Austin, Minnesota, Southend-on-Sea in the UK, Newport Richley in Florida, Varenholz in Germany, Pretoria, South Africa, Cairo in Egypt, Swansea in UK, Owasso in Michigan, Houston, Texas, Spring Valley, New York, Frankfurt am Main, Fort Bragg in California, that's going to be a military base.
Sounds like it, doesn't it?
I think it is. Birkenhead.
In the UK.
Hey, Jackie, what?
Just the other side of Liverpool, isn't it? And that's how they talk.
Yeah. Romford in the UK, Richmond, Virginia, Newbury in the UK, a lot of UK this week.
Yeah.
Lower Hutt in New Zealand. We'll break into the top 10. Gela in Romania, Niles, Michigan, Bengaluru, Guadalajara, Spain, and Ashburn, Virginia. It's all good. Thank you very much. You can follow us on Facebook at Cutting Through the Bud in the Post-Truth Apocalypse, SoundCloud and most other podcasting platforms at Cutting Through the Bud in the PTA, and YouTube at Apocalypse Ball.
Tell all your friends.
Tell your friends, tell a neighbour, tell a loved one.
Shout it from the rooftops if you really want.
Yes, scream my name.
Oh dear. Oh shit.
Well, let's talk about the Ausso One encounter. By all accounts, 41-year-old oil well driller, husband and father of 4, Carl Higdon, was not a man prone to flights of fancy. Well, now he's got 4 kids on the fucking go, hasn't he? Can't have got time for flights of fancy with 4 kids running round.
Certainly not.
As well as drilling oil wells. But on the crisp autumn afternoon of October 25th, 1974, he had a close encounter with a bizarre being who would not only test the limits of his imagination, but quite literally take him on the ride of his life.
Ooh.
Sounds fun. Sounds like my kind of night.
I wouldn't mind it. Sounds it's better than an average night indoors, but that way.
Too right.
Like many Americans in the 1970s, the hard-working Carl Higdon was hit hard by the recession. As food prices crept ever higher, Higdon decided he would have to hunt in order to feed his family and stock their icebox with enough meat to get them through the harsh Wyoming winter that was just around the corner. It would be during such expedition that Higdon would go from being the hunter to becoming the hunted, because Predator was there.
I was going to say, it sounded like an episode of Predator, that does.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but the deer hunter would have been a lot more interested.
Yeah, it would have been, wouldn't it? Everyone raves about that movie, you know.
I love it, it's a great film.
Never watched it.
The Deer Hunter. It is good. The ending's a bit very tense. I think the ending's just fantastic.
Is it what it says on the tin? A guy that hunts deers?
It's a Vietnam film.
Yeah.
So it's nothing to do with deers?
Yeah, they do. They go deer hunting. It's a group of steel workers in Pennsylvania that go deer hunting.
Yeah, they go deer hunting together. They work together. They're all best mates. And then
3 of them get drafted into the army. You have to go to Vietnam, have some horrific experiences, come back, and they've changed, and it's not the same anymore.
Now they're hunting deers with Bowie knives and jumping on their backs and cutting their ears off and shit.
They're burning deer villages down, cutting their ears off.
Another great Christopher Walken performance.
Oh, it's Christopher. All right, you can have that one.
Christopher Walken.
We watched a film
One
called
of the most bloody cardboard actors of all time.
Yes, thank you.
He's like a cardboard cutout.
Who's worse, Christopher Walken or Orlando Bloom?
Christopher Walken.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
Christopher Walken.
Orlando Bloom's worse. Isn't
At least Orlando Bloom's pretty.
Yeah, but Christopher Walken's got that distinctly weird look about him.
Yes, but he's just so fucking boring.
I'll give you Batman Returns and The Deer Hunter.
He was good in Batman Returns because he played a really good... Well, he plays a really good nutter, doesn't he? That's about it.
Yeah.
True Romance. That's probably his best role, I'd say.
Okay, 3. I did say 5.
McBain.
No, it's terrible.
I'm not saying I don't like him. I think he's... I like some of his films, but I do think he's like a bloody wooden statue. He really is.
We watched this film, McBain, one of Christopher Walken's lesser known movies, or could be one of his better known, I've no idea.
Is that a war film?
Kind of. Right? Basically, McBain and this other dude get captured, they break out, they run away, they go back to the US, he's like, if you ever
They're in
need any
Vietnam, aren't they?
Yeah, you ever need any problems, Colvin, give me a call. And he's just some construction work. He was somehow recruited
Welding a bridge.
Welding a bridge. He was somehow recruited a team of mercenaries, and everyone seems to love him, even though his only war experience was getting captured in Vietnam.
Bobby McBain.
Bobby McBain, anyway. Back to this. We went a bit of a walk. We went a bit of a Walken. A verbal Walken there. The day began like any other. Higdon awoke and was getting ready for his second shift workday at the AM Wells Service Company in Riverton when his telephone rang. After working his way through the company for the better part of 20 years, Higdon was now the foreman, and therefore it fell to him to take sick calls from the crew. He described the situation, which is a quote, "I was all set to leave for work when one of my key men phoned to tell me that he was sick." Key men. Realising that nothing could be accomplished with him at home, I decided to take the day off.
Cool.
There's only 2 men on this oil well, I presume.
It sounds like it.
Well, he's a foreman now, so,
If he's got no team to 4.
That's it. Having committed to not going into work, and let's face it, we've all been there.
Yeah.
I've committed to not going to work.
I woke up at 6 a.m. before now and committed to not going to work.
No one's been as committed as me.
That's very true. You know what? If there was an Olympic event.
I'm going to that lying down event on it.
Oh yeah.
We've got the gold medalist right here. Oh yeah.
Higdon decided to utilise his unexpectedly free afternoon by using it to hunt for elk. With his plan in place, the old man packed his gear into his company pickup and began heading towards McCarthy Canyon in nearby Carbon County. It was then that a random act of kindness would forever change his destiny. While cruising towards McCarthy Canyon, Higdon spied a pair of stranded motorists working on their immobile van. He pulled over and helped them repair their vehicle, and during the course of the conversation, the duo revealed they were also hunters and they knew of a place where there was much more game than Higdon's current destination. He recounted the encounter. I pulled in front of them and helped them. And during our chat, they told me that the hunting was much better farther back in a remote section of the Medicine Bow National Forest. So he thanked them, when without delay changed his course and began driving towards the northern region of Medicine Bow National Park, which is located just 40 miles south of his home in Rawlings. Higdon arrived at the park in the late afternoon, and once he was there he bumped into an old friend.
Hey buddy!
Hey Barry! An old friend, Gary Eaton, had walked over to where he'd stopped and together they surveyed the area. Garrett. After a few minutes, Garrett told me that he was going on higher up the forest. Jokingly, he suggested he might scare down some elk for me.
By running around going, "Got it! Oh, got it!
Got it.
Got it!"
I just want to break this news to you. Not everyone called Gary has to just say Garrett randomly.
Don't they?
No.
Do they do when they're around me? It's good because you know where they are at all times.
It's very true. You never lose a Gary.
Where's Gary?
It's like a sonar for them, isn't it? Get a ping, get a Gary ping.
A Gary ping.
Now, Higdon and his mate then separated, at which point the hunter pulled out his brand new Magnum rifle and loaded it with powerful 7mm bullets. Higdon decided to explore an area that was concealed behind a hill and set off, never imagining what would happen next.
Dun, dun, dun.
7mm bullets are pretty big round.
Are they?
Yeah.
It's a similar size round to what you'd use in an AK-47.
Isn't it 7mm?
It is.
It's an AK-47.
Across.
Yeah.
AK-47,
Diameter.
7.76.
7.62.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. For an AK.
5.76 is the...
5.56 for NATO. 5.76 for the AK-74.
That's right.
Mm.
Yeah.
He walked for Higdon. He walked for a few moments, and then at the corner of his eye, he caught a flash of movement. It was exactly what he'd come for: a small herd of elk. Higdon silently raised his heavy rifle, put his eye to the sight, and took aim at the largest male. To quote him, he says, "I had walked maybe 5 minutes until I came to a rise in the ground. Down below in a clearing were 5 elk huddled closely together, and from my vantage point, several hundred yards away, I could see that one of them was a really outstanding animal."
Oh, so I thought I'd kill it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I lined him up in my...
At least he's going to eat it.
That's it. He's not
Well,
doing this as
I know,
sport.
but-
Hopefully he's going to honour the animal correctly and use every part of it.
Yeah, I guess.
I lined him up with my telescopic sight and fired my gun, a Magnum rifle. It can give your shoulder a mean whack if you're not careful. I guess the best way to describe this would be, it's like a World War II rifle, or World War I rifle in that respect.
Like an M1 Garand or something.
Yeah, I think that's might be a slightly bigger round, but certainly the German Kar 98 rifle. You're looking, it's going to make a sizable mess of
You think of a 9mm, yeah? It's a bit smaller than that, but look at the damage that
You've
they
got more
do.
propellant, haven't it?
I don't know what you're on about.
You look at the damage that...
I don't know, American friends, you can help us out with
Yeah,
that.
they're the different guns.
American friends, you can help us out.
The bigger the bullet, the more damage it does.
That's it.
Pretty much.
And it will be at this moment that Carl Higdon's world would take a decided twist towards the bizarre. As soon as Higdon pulled the trigger of his Magnum, he was astounded by the fact there was no kickback from the rifle, which would be a sizable kickback from a cartridge that big. What was even more perplexing was the fact the detonation was absolutely silent. In fact, according to Higdon, it was as if the entire world had fallen still.
Max Payne.
Max Payne.
Bullet time!
Yeah.
That was a fucking awesome game,
Was,
that when it
wasn't it?
came out.
Now, if you said The Matrix, I'd have got you straight off. Is that they literally invented bullet time in that movie?
True.
As if all of that were not strange enough, for the first time in his life, Higdon claimed that he was actually able to watch as the bullet left the barrel of his rifle and soared forward so slowly that it looked like as if it were travelling through a wall of invisible jello.
Oh.
You sounded really northern when you started that sentence, by the way.
It's my gravelly
Really
voice.
northern, that's why I giggled.
Higdon later swore that he watched the bullet glide about 50 feet before it plummeted to the snow-speckled ground before him.
That was it, 50 feet.
Yeah, which is not obviously, considering these things are a couple of 100 feet away. So good. "I couldn't believe my senses," Higdon said. Instead of a powerful blast, the 7mm bullet left the gun's barrel noiselessly and in slow motion. It floated like a butterfly,
Didn't sting like a bee, though.
finally falling to the ground about 50 feet from where I was stood. I was awestruck. I froze. All around me there was a painful silence. Not a chirping bird or a rustling of leaves or nearby trees could be heard. The only sensation I could detect was a tingling feeling which crawled up my spine. This was similar to the feeling you often get before a fierce thunderstorm when the air is full of static electricity. Still immersed in the eerie static-charged silence, Higdon cautiously retrieved the bullet and inspected it closely. He immediately noticed that the lead portion of the 7mm round had disappeared and only the oddly misshapen case remained. Which shouldn't happen.
No.
No. Because the case gets ejected from the
Breech.
gun, and it's only the bullet that projects out
Yes.
Through-
And let's assume that this is
through
a
the barrel.
hunting rifle. It's probably bolt action. So the round, you would just work the
expel
action, eject the round,
Yeah.
load the next. I don't know if even if it's semi-automatic, the round's the case is being discharged. So weird. He placed the bullet into his pocket and took a few perplexed steps forward. That was when the deathly silence surrounding him was abruptly broken by the sound of a twig snapping. Higdon spun around and was confronted by a sight that he instantly knew was not of this earth.
Dude with curly hair.
Ausso One.
That's what he saw. He saw this
Yes,
guy.
now we're looking at a sketch here, listeners, so you can go and check that out. Ausso One, AUSSO and 1. He's a tall guy, he's got some crazy hair, some little antennae, a spike for a hand, a stump for another, he's got a...
He's just an Australian, mate. G'day, mate. Yeah, my name's Ausso One. Yeah. Fucking ripper.
I'm getting, and I don't know about you guys, I'm getting Sam the Sandown Clown vibes off Ausso One.
Yeah, I could see that. I understand that, but he is differently dressed, but I know what you mean.
But let's not account for personal taste, Pete. Ausso and Sam might be he might be a bit of a goth. Sam might be a clown.
Are you thinking they're like the same breed of beings, perhaps?
Sam did claim in his encounter that he was one of many on the earth, living in hiding. Just the antennae too. Sam had antennae.
Yeah.
Just throwing it out there.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I like that theory.
They go back and check out our episode on Sam the Sandown Clown. I think it's called Weird Cryptids. So I scroll down the mic. Let's continue. Turning to my left, said Higdon, I saw a, quote, man standing there. At first I thought he was just another hunter, so I lowered my gun. Then he moved out of the shadows into the light, and immediately I realised that something was terribly wrong. My heart skipped a beat and my knees were shaking so badly I could hardly stand. I thought, hell, I should have stayed in McCarthy Canyon like I'd originally planned. Standing before the trembling hunter was what appeared to be a humanoid being clad in a skin-tight black one-piece outfit that Higdon claimed was similar to a wetsuit scuba divers wear. Atop the suit was a pair of harness-like straps that crisscrossed its chest, below which was a metallic belt adorned with a large yellow six-pointed star. Beneath the star was an insignia that the outdoorsman could not identify. Higdon described at least what he presumed to be masculine entity in detail. It was definitely a male, he said.
Did he check his bulge, did he?
I hope he asked him and not just presumed
That's like
his gender.
Black suit.
Oh, there's different I was looking at different pictures of him, and he's got some of them on there as well.
I hope he wasn't assuming his gender.
Not in this day and age.
No, in this day and age. No, this was the 70s, can you, Claire?
Yeah.
The visitor had no detectable ears, his eyes were small and lacked eyebrows, the dome of his skull was covered with the coarsest hair imaginable. It looked as if he had straw growing out of his head. His complexion was very similar to an Oriental's. Can't say that nowadays either. He was definitely man-like in height. I'd estimated he stood well over 6 feet tall and weighed about 180 pounds. This was entirely no ghost. Good Lord, he was flesh and blood. Amen. That to me looks like an anime character.
That looks like something out of Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah.
It does look a bit like Beavis, Butthead actually. Looks like Butthead with antennae.
I am the great Conholio.
That was Beavis.
Yeah.
Beavis, yes.
I need TV for my bubble.
Higdon would go on to depict this creature's oddly upsetting facial features, including a lipless, slit-like mouth that concealed 3 exceptionally large teeth, not unlike the notoriously fanged humanoids of Kofu.
Who?
That's what I was thinking. On the top and the bottom. A pair of antennas, and most alarmingly to Higdon, a face that blended directly into its neck.
Got no chin.
Higdon continued his disturbing depiction of the alleged alien. Quote, Personally, it took getting used to in order for me to look at him without getting a queasy feeling in the pit of my stomach. No chin was visible. His face just seemed to blend right into his throat. He had no jawbone. So I punched him.
He's the alien Audley Harrison, isn't he?
Yes. That's a weirder picture Pete's found.
That's the humanoid of Kofu.
Oh right, the human of the Kofu. Find that on the internet, listener. Google that.
Looks like a vampire in bandages.
Yeah, mummy vampire. Oh right, okay. Well, you know what? I think that's going to be an episode one day.
Yeah.
Would you and Anthony the Strange and human of the Kofu might have to make an appearance?
3 big teeth. That's all they've got.
So, stranger still was the fact that this long-armed, bow-legged, jaundice-skinned creature had a pointy, almost drill bit-like appendage sticking out of its wrist where its right hand ought to have been, and nothing at all on the left. At this point, the being slowly approached the terrified Higdon and did something completely unexpected. It asked him, "How you doing?"
G'day, mate. How you doing?
Been watching Friends, has he?
The name's Ausso.
I think he was
How you
predating.
doing?
I think we know now where Matt, what's his face, got the
LeBlanc.
inspiration.
Yeah.
Matt LeBlanc got the inspiration. How are you doing?
He travelled from the past and the future, didn't he?
No,
into the
I'm
past?
going with my first instinct. He's an Aussie. He's just some big, tall Aussie guy with a funny haircut.
And a pointy bit for a hand. And
He's just got a stump for a hand. Yeah, I carried off doing a Barbie, mate. Yeah, it
Shark's
was a really big pork chop it was. Or a shark bit off.
Sharks bit it off,
Yeah.
probably. The bewildered hunter admitted that he was trying to stay calm when he weakly responded, "Pretty good." At this point, the extraterrestrial, like any good host, inquired whether or not Higdon was hungry. Before he could respond, the creature sent a small, clear cellophane package floating towards him.
Want some candy?
Have some of this, mate. I think he's like, have some of these. He waved a pointed object to where his right hand should have been, and it levitated over to me. I opened the packet and found 4 pills inside. Oh God, he's just a drug dealer.
Want to get high?
He told me in English to take one of them, and that it would last 4 days. Now normally I don't like taking pills, not even an aspirin, but something happened. It's as if I had no control over my actions, so I just swallowed one of them and put the other 3 into my jacket pocket.
So some Aussie gave him a fucking trip.
Yeah.
And this is his trip, basically.
I suppose what we could look at here is the possibility that when he was helping them guys out, they gave him maybe something to drink that was possibly laced with acid.
Yeah.
And then
He met some Australian
he
guy.
met some Australian guy in the woods who was also he was like hunting, but also it was like, these will make the trip a lot better for you, mate. You know,
Why would the people that he's helping drug him up?
I don't know, just throw it out there. The strange, jawless humanoid then introduced himself as Ausso One, and that was when Higdon's gaze caught a strange box-like object catching the sun's rays in the clearing behind the strange creature.
See, like a box-like object.
So did the pill...
Sam the Sandown Man had like a box.
He had like a
Metal shed, wasn't it?
a metal shed that the old telephone engineers had put up.
I think it was a box,
When they,
essentially. I was thinking.
when they were working on something.
Well, no, it was nothing to do with that. It was just a shed that he was living in. It was just the engineers were...
Oh no, you're right. The
down road.
engineers were in the little shed.
No.
They were witnesses to the whole thing. Or could have
Yeah,
been.
but he had
Sam
this
had a little metal shed, you know, like a little metal box to live in.
Yeah.
Stranger and stranger.
I'm wondering if the pill allowed him to see the spacecraft.
Opened
didn't
his
see it
mind,
before,
almost
did
like
it?
DMT or
Yeah.
something.
No, it won't.
He asked him if
If
he
it's
was
an Aussie
hungry.
drug dealer, then yes, it's DMT or something. Or acid or whatever. If it's actually an alien and the explanation given here is it's actually a food pill.
Or it's an alien rohypnol. He's about to get spiked up the arse.
There is some
More than likely.
there is some coming later on.
There you go.
I thought it was an alien food pill.
Okay.
It'll keep you like full for 4 days.
I'm going with rohypnol.
Well, Higdon said that there, not far from us, was a transparent cube-shaped object resting on the ground. To me, it looked like a huge Christmas package, you know, flat on all sides like a box. I couldn't see any landing gear or entrance, and it was much smaller than any of our commercial or military planes. In fact, you're going to think I'm crazy. But this thing couldn't have been more than 5 feet high, 7 feet long, and 4.5 feet wide. Tiny is the only word I can think of to accurately describe its size. Apparently intrigued by the awe at which Higdon was staring at his ship, the alleged alien gamely asked the hunter, "Do you want to come along?"
Want to go for a ride?
Higdon, fully aware of the fact that he was in no position to refuse this being any request, lamely shrugged his shoulders in assent. It was at this point that time appeared to leap forward, as Higdon's next recollection was of being inside the cube-like craft. He said, "Before I was able to move a muscle, I found myself inside this contraption. It was instantaneous. How I was able to fit inside remains a riddle.
TARDIS.
They must have shrunk me. It's the only explanation that seems plausible."
The pill shrunk him.
Oh, maybe.
There you go. Like Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
I wouldn't venture how they accomplished this feat. Ausso One just pointed, and we were where he wanted us.
Have you not seen Doctor Who, mate?
Yeah,
Come on, look at the TARDIS.
He had me right where he wanted me.
Are you presuming bent over a table? Oh god, I have got the spike on his hands for.
Yeah.
Telling you, that was Rohypnol.
After Ausso One loaded his earthly guest into his tiny, perhaps TARDIS-like box, Higdon's mind began to get fuzzy and he started to panic. To quote him, he said, "My memory fails me here. I recall my head starting to reel, my hands sweating. Somehow the pill this fellow gave me must have deadened at least some of my senses."
Rohypnol!
Pete's right.
"Otherwise, I'm positive I would have been crying and perhaps even fainted. I may be strong, but I'm only human." At this point, Higdon noticed that all 5 of the elk he had been stalking just moments before were also in the cube, behind what he perceived to be an invisible barrier. The hunter marvelled at the creature's ability to incapacitate the untamed animals. "I'm kind of fuzzy as to how they managed to contain such wild beasts. They were motionless, paralysed."
Well, I'm guessing it's the same pill that
He offered them a pill too, yeah. Take the pill, Mr. Elk.
Try and gun them.
No, I have to do it suppository, wouldn't it?
Probed him with his pointy stump.
Yeah.
Or he could have just fed him an apple with a bit of pill stuck in it.
More than likely.
That could work too.
I like how you all went to the really sick end of it, yeah, shoved it up its arse.
That's how these things usually go in an alien encounter.
Shoved it up his Jap side with his tongue.
Fucking hell. Jesus. There's always a bar, isn't there? And Mike always gets under it.
Way under.
Way under.
Why the fuck did you then?
Why jump side with your tongue?
What porn have you been watching?
I tell you what.
Elk porn, I don't know.
I would almost be intrigued just to spend 5 minutes in Mike's mind.
Oh, you wouldn't.
Just to see what's happening in that brain of his.
Believe me, you wouldn't.
I don't think I would, no.
No, the stuff getting shoved up my Jap's eye.
With someone's tongue.
With someone's tongue. No.
An alien's tongue at that.
He could have done. We don't know. I'll just point out there.
His memory is fuzzy.
He didn't see what happened to the elk. So
no, he didn't know, that's true.
This is all pure speculation, guys.
Other methods of delivering sedatives are available.
We know Mike's favourite.
It would seem
it's a good job he's not a doctor, isn't he? Mike the anaesthetist. No, I don't want him!
Right, I'm just going to shove this up your Jap's eye. Can I just breathe the gas in? No.
I have my lower ribs removed so I can do it to myself.
But that doctor said it is just gas. Don't matter.
I've got to insert it into you. Through
See
your
a jab side with my tongue.
With my tongue. It's the only way to do it. Only way to be sure.
Oh, shit.
It would seem that the elk were not the only things paralysed, because at virtually the same moment as he saw the frozen beasts, Higdon claimed that he had become abruptly aware of the fact he was now sitting in a high-backed bucket seat with what he described as restrictive bands covering his arms and legs.
Does it?
This
I
could
hope he
be
hasn't seen what's happened to the elk.
this could be awful. As we took off, I found myself strapped down to the seat with my hands held fast to the armrests of the chair. My legs were similarly bound. Resisting what must have been an overwhelming urge to panic, Higdon watched in growing horror as another jawless, straw-haired being appeared out of nowhere. At which point, he and his genial partner strapped a bizarre wire-smothered football helmet-like device to his head, prompting the hunter to state, "I felt like the monster in an old Frankenstein movie."
No, you're the gimp.
In this scenario, more than likely the gimp.
Yes, master.
Higdon then observed a console with 3 dissimilar levers which Ausso One used to control the craft. The alien pointed its hand at the at the longest lever and seemed to be able to move it with a telepathy. It was then that the peculiar transport cube that Higdon would later describe as a flying boxcar took off. Ausso One manipulated the vehicle that hovered above Higdon's truck. With a point of his conical hand, the vehicle vanished before his eyes. And when we got above the trees, Ausso aimed his arm at the pickup truck and it disappeared. Poof! Vanished into thin air, said Higdon. As if this entire ordeal weren't already quite outlandish enough, Higdon testified that just as suddenly as they left terra firma, he abruptly spied an ominous planet-like sphere, shaped similar to a basketball, as most planets are.
Yeah.
Through the clear floor of the box-like craft, a planet he immediately knew was not Earth.
See, this sounds too much like lots of different films, all amalgamated into one.
It wasn't the 70s though, remember this,
Yeah,
so a lot
so
of these
we've
films
got-
haven't been out yet.
Yeah, all of the films have already been out, or the stories that he could be taking this from. Doctor Who, that's been out for years.
You're not getting
already.
Doctor Who in America in the 1970s.
Is that reckon? Maybe.
Not a chance, it was a very British show. Doctor
They've
Who.
got a BBC.
Yeah.
Not back then, they hadn't in the 70s.
No.
I doubt it.
I would have thought they would.
But then you've got Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. The glass fucking elevator that flies around. With the, it's just there's a lot of,
When was that film?
oh god, 60s.
No.
Willy Wonka and the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
70s at least, isn't it?
70s.
Maybe
was
early
right there, though,
70s.
wasn't
it?
But the book was around way
The
before.
book was probably the 60s.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, innit?
Anyway, the most memorable sight that Higdon recalled from his impromptu tour of this ostensibly alien world was a colossal tower that loomed above the surface. He would later compare it to Seattle's Space Needle, but unlike its earthbound namesake, this huge umbrella-like structure was covered in rotating lights that were so blinding they hurt his eyes. The hunter was also overwhelmed by a sound that he compared to an electric razor buzzing.
1971.
Ah, okay. All around this tower were revolving patterns and multicoloured lights, not unlike powerful spotlights. They were so intense it was actually painful to keep my eyes open. These lights were so brilliant that I held my hands to my face as a protective shield. I vaguely remember shouting, "Shut them off! They're burning me!" I just couldn't tolerate them.
Close his eyes then.
Well, yeah, that would help. Oh, they're burning his skin.
Ah.
But he feels like they're burning his skin. Rather than comforting their frightened guest, the second drill-handed humanoid merely commented that they had similar problems on our homeworld, insisting that your sun burns us too.
Right.
Well, that doesn't make any sense, does it?
It's like, well, it's a tit for tat, isn't it? Like, oh my god, those lights! And he's like, yeah, well, your sun burns us too, mate. Shut the fuck up, something a bitch.
Yeah, but the lights are brighter, I'm assuming, than the sunlight on Earth.
All I'm saying is that humanoid number 2 is a bit of a dick.
So if they can take that, they should be able to take the sun on Earth, shouldn't they?
Yeah.
Doesn't really make sense.
I'm just saying that his number 2 is a bit of a dick.
Sounds it.
It was then that the odd craft landed around 150 feet away from the platform at the base of the tower, at which point the second being vanished, just as abruptly as it arrived. Through the transparent walls of the ship, Higdon saw what he claimed were 5 human beings dressed in average Earth fashions, talking to one another. The individuals consisted of one brown-haired girl who appeared to be about 11 years old, a blonde girl who was just a few years older, and a teen couple who seemed to be about 17 or 18. The group was rounded out by a man who seemed to be in his 50s.
Pedo.
Or Dad.
Yeah!
I'd go with Dad on that. Bloody hell, Michael.
The people seemed to be talking to one another and did not notice Higdon. Ausso One, who had so cordially offered Higdon food pills and a ride around the cosmos, did not explain the presence of the other humans, but patiently explained to the anxious oil man that they had touched down on a planet that was 163,000 light miles from Earth.
Ooh.
So, what's a light mile? A million?
Know how long it takes for a light to travel in a mile?
So that's like 176,000 metres per second. Times
Kilometres per second.
I can't
What
fucking
knows?
remember the maths of that bullshit.
Well, either way,
Jesus.
he was quick to realise the creature did not say light years, which to him indicated in no uncertain terms that to them the passage of time is different than it is to us.
It's amazing that he's using miles.
Yeah, it's amazing the different species in
It's amazing how far the British Empire actually got, isn't
It's
it?
the English language, the fact that they even know how.
Well, you presume that if they can travel interplanetary, they've got some kind of universal translator.
Yeah, but Universal Translator wouldn't allow them to know what our. What's the word I'm looking for? Like
Well,
measuring of distance and things like that.
Measuring
wouldn't-
units.
They wouldn't understand units and shit.
Unless they're
would they?
that intelligent that they know he
What we
speaks
call
English
it,
and
yeah.
they're going to call it miles, and he's already converted it in his head from his own.
If they're here, I suppose they are vastly more intelligent
Could be.
than us.
They probably know our units, they've got to research us a little bit, you know.
Could have been living on Earth for a while anyway, couldn't he? Researching and.
Sam could have told him.
Yep, conveying with Sam.
Ausso One escorted Higdon into the dazzling tower, and the pair ascended in an elevator which deposited them in a room where the hunter was instructed to stand on a small platform. Higdon noted that he and the alien haven't actually walked anywhere, but seemed to be floating just above the ground while they hovered towards their destination. Ausso One, so arbitrarily, or so it seemed, explained there were no fish on his planet, and that these finned critters were one of his people's favourite things about Earth. Ah, he loves the fish. You love the fish.
He won't love the mercury in the fish.
Now, all the microplastics,
No.
all the radiation.
Yeah.
At this point, an odd device that Higdon described as resembling a glassy shield slipped out of the wall and paused in front of the human. The shield was evidently some kind of medical device and scanned the man for almost 5 minutes before it disappeared back into the wall.
Good thorough scan at least.
Yeah. Projections never fun, but it's hard to contemplate that Higdon did not consider to be a stroke of luck when his extraterrestrial tour guide informed him that they were going to return to the spot where they had first met because the examination had shown that he did not suit their purpose.
Oh.
He wasn't an anal virgin.
Oh, maybe his willy wasn't big enough, or maybe he had a heart defect, or you don't know.
Spoiler alert, he's had a vasectomy.
Ah, right.
There's humans walking around on an alien planet. He doesn't suit their purpose because he's had a vasectomy. What do you think's happening? Alien-human hybrid program.
Wow.
But they were humans. They were.
I tell you what,
They could be
mate,
5th generation hybrids, you don't know.
it's
Could
been a
be
while.
Human.
If they want a human hybrid sex machine, let me know. I'll go up there.
I don't think
Oh,
he's gonna
nothing
milk-
else
I
on
think
it,
he's
isn't
going to put a thing around your dick and milk you.
Nah, I'll be like, no, come on. At least I'm doing this willingly. Let me at least fuck whatever I'm
No,
impregnating.
sorry, you get the milking thing. That's it. You're milked into a tube over and over again.
Be like one of those fleshlights or whatever they're called.
That's it. Just a fleshlight constantly pumping you as they pump Viagra into one end and testosterone into the other. Higdon, perhaps mercifully, never knew what this potentially nefarious purpose was, although he would speculate it was a breeding program, well, clearly. Ausso One led the oil man back to the elevator and then down to the main door. With the same abruptness he had felt earlier, Higdon realised that he and his alien companion were now back inside the Clair cubicle, this time with no elk. Ausso One was admiring the human's rifle, and with a tinge of regret admitted that as much as he would not be able to keep the primitive weapon as a souvenir. Primitive weapon. It's going to blow a hole in an elk and it's primitive to them.
Right, I'm just going to highlight a slight flaw in this now, right? I'm talking now from Auso's side. Right, he's come down to Earth.
Yeah.
He's got some guy. Alright mate, how you doing? You look kind of good. Kind of guy I'd like to
Milk.
let shag my wife or whatever.
Milk into a tube.
Instead of him then giving him the pill, taking him fucking billions of miles away, just to have to bring him back for nothing. Why didn't they do the test there? Why didn't he say to him, "Will your junk in order, mate"? Well, if he'd have just said that one question to him,
alright,
and he'd have gone, "I've had a vasectomy."
It's scary, that.
Go to a stranger dressed as an alien, right? Offer them a pill, and then ask them if the junk's in order.
Yeah, but
If they've got instant. The thing is, it's pretty much instantaneous travel.
well, it felt like
it felt like it was
travel because he was all pilled up. But if he'd have just asked him that question, because he was already pilled up, he was already doing his every fucking will anyway. So why didn't he just say to him, "Have you had a vasectomy?" "Yes, I have." "Okay, right. Go and have a sleep for 10 minutes, or here's another pill. This will counteract that one. Be on your way, mate. You'll forget this ever happened."
Yeah.
And then he'd go and find the next guy. Surely.
We don't know.
They're that advanced, and they couldn't fucking think of that.
But we don't know if it wasn't instantaneous travel and these TARDISes aren't a spacecraft but some kind of dimension jumping or instantaneous galactic teleporter.
Yeah, but what people
But either
are
way,
saying
that would have
is,
still cost money.
why didn't they have a contraption on the ship?
Yeah, well, that
Or
would've
even
made
just
sense.
ask the question.
No, because he could lie, couldn't he?
No, but he was already bent to their will. He was fucking taking drugs off them and all sorts. Surely he was going to give them the truthful answer about whether he'd had his junk chopped.
In all fairness, he has taken drugs off an alien in the woods.
This
He's
is my
a pretty
point.
trusting guy, isn't he?
That's my point.
He's taken a pill off an alien in the woods. He's a trusting man.
They could easily...
They could have just asked him, I guess,
They
you're
could
right.
easily, within that pill that they've already fucking got him to take, have a little bit of truth serum in there. Just a little bit of truth serum. So when he does ask him, "How's your junk?" he gives him a truthful answer.
Yeah.
If they're that fucking far advanced, why didn't they think of that when little old me, and little old Blighty, has thought of that? So that for me now, I do not believe any of this story.
It took that.
That was the one little that was that one little factor that made me think, no, bullshit.
But if it's near instantaneous travel, then what's it fucking matter?
Surely though, his boss is going to be like, Ausso, you fucking knobhead. What have I told you about this?
I know.
It costs every time you come back and forth.
More than
It
likely,
costs.
they've got a target to hit, and they've got to. How do we all know?
Perhaps
We
he
haven't
was
been taken
there-
by Ausso.
Perhaps he was there for the elk.
They
said they like
could have brought the
fish.
elk back.
Maybe they like venison.
Maybe they like collecting species.
Yeah.
Having their own little breeding zoos. That's another possibility. So he's not only gone back for the elk, he saw the human as a bit of a bonus, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So, oh shit.
So
Do a
maybe-
few more of them.
so
you can
maybe-
never have too many humans.
Maybe the contraption was on the ship because that wasn't the plan.
I bet their SOPs have changed now, though, eh?
bet they
Standard
have.
operating procedures
Yeah, but they have, yeah.
since 1974. Now they ask the question before they take them on the ship.
I like to know that Ozzo's like, hey, I'd love to keep this primitive weapon as a fucking souvenir. He's like, you can't fire it, mate. You got a stump and a pointy bit on your arm. What are you going to do with it? Put it on the wall and look at it?
Yeah, like we do. Put it on display.
I don't know. I'm sure you want to give it a bit of fire, wouldn't you? Anyone? No?
I would, yeah, but that, if they couldn't, well, they could because they can move things with their mind.
Oh, yeah, true. You can just hold it telepathically, couldn't he?
Telekinetically.
Another slight flaw.
Oh, another one.
Yeah, another slight flaw. Vasectomy is actually reversible.
It is.
And if they're that far advanced, why the fuck didn't they just go, "It's not a problem, mate, we can fucking sew that back together"?
Don't even need to because your body's...
extract it, couldn't they?
Yeah, your body still produces sperm, it just doesn't go...
It's not sterile though. He's not fertile even.
Yeah, he is. It's still producing sperm.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just they've cut the path where it goes.
So yeah, many flaws in this story,
Mm.
and that whole spunk debunkle is the biggest flaw that opened it all up for me.
Debunked by Spunk.
Yep. I thought spunk debunkle was good.
Well,
sorry guys.
Higdon's on his way home now. Ausso One has telepathically handed the rifle back to him.
Telekinetically.
Telepathically, telekinetically, whatever you
The
do.
blue stuff is telekinesis, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Telepathic is.
Oh yeah, I guess
Mind
you're
to
right.
mind.
Telekinetic, yeah.
Who wrote this article?
Yeah, someone who's never seen the X-Men, clearly.
We're gonna have to give them a telling off, I think.
MysteriousAniverse.org.
Yeah. Ausso then removed the food pills from his pocket. You're having no more space drugs, mate. You jaffer. A fact that dismayed the hunter, as it represented the only piece of concrete evidence that he had of this weird event. Once again, the alien pointed at the longest lever, and it was then that our intrepid hero suffered another disorientating time jump. Higdon quickly realised that he was no longer hovering above an alien world, that his alien comrade and his miraculous cube had seemingly instantaneously transported him back to Earth. He claimed that he saw his truck, which had been inexplicably transported some 5 miles from the glade where it had been parked 2.5 hours before. The hunter later considered the situation. To quote him, he said, "Since I was in a state of mental stress, this fact did not have any impact on me until some time later."
And he was suffering from drug withdrawal.
Whatever come down he's on.
Actually.
He's on some massive come down, isn't he? I know that I could never have driven over that impossible terrain, even if I'd been physically capable of driving, which I was most certainly not. At this point, the kindly spaceman said to the earthing, "We'll see you." And the foreman was overwhelmed by a floating sensation, and without warning found himself standing on the edge of a steep rocky slope. The loose stones could not support his weight, and he suddenly found himself plummeting down the 9-foot decline, severely impacting against the hard ground and injuring his head, neck and shoulder. So
Yeah,
that's
a
really
kindly spaceman.
that's really like shit teleport, you know. You
Yeah.
never saw that on Star Trek, did you? They never teleport Kirk the edge of a canyon. They just plummets down.
It was it's like, we'll see you.
We'll see it.
How much is that going to fucking play on his poor mind? Like, what? He's going to come back? Oh fuck! They're going to come back? Oh shit! 'Cause surely afterwards you'd be freaked out by the whole situation, thinking, he said we'll see you. He's going to come back to me.
Maybe they'll come back, my kids.
Yeah. What a twat.
Yeah. You know, the next thing the bewildered father of 4 consciously recalled was staggering nearly 3 miles down an old dirt road, rifle in hand, freezing, and in a state of nearly hysterical amnesia. To quote him, he said, "I didn't know what had happened, who I was, or where I was, for that matter. The only thing I could think of was to get out of there as fast as possible and find someone who could help me." Higdon was in such a state of shock that he walked past his pickup without even recognising it. When he realised that he was utterly alone on the dirt road, he backtracked to the vehicle. There I stood, shivering, eyes filled with tears and not knowing my own identity. I saw a truck parked off the road between some trees and decided to crawl into it for shelter and to keep warm. I didn't realise the truck belonged to me. At least it dropped him off by his truck. In a very confused coming down state, honestly. Huddled and trembling in shock, Higdon was startled by a feminine voice that suddenly crackled over the CB radio. There was a 2-way set under the dashboard, so I picked up the mic and held it close to my mouth. I managed to blurt out that I was sick and lost and desperately in need of assistance. When a voice on the other end asked me where I was, I told him I'd seen a sign down the road which read North Boundary National Forest. This didn't seem to be much help, however, as there was absolutely no indication as to what forest the sign was referring to.
Fucking hell. Like being up the shit creek without a paddle, that, isn't it?
It is a little bit, but if your truck's there, then hopefully you're in the same place, even though your truck has been moved.
Yeah, they moved it, didn't they?
A search party led by a local sheriff and accompanied by Higdon's wife Marjorie had a lot of difficulty navigating the backwoods paths with their 4-wheel drive vehicles and were able to locate the panicky hunter until almost midnight. It was during this arduous trip that Higdon's wife and 2 of the deputies claimed to have spied green, red and white flashing lights in the sky, but they were too far away to discern its true origin. But if it's green, red and white, I'm guessing those are aircraft lights. And without any further evidence to say they were dancing around the sky or anything like that, you got to assume that those particular colours are aircraft, haven't you?
Yeah.
Later it would come out that 2 residents of Rawlings, Wyoming, Don and Marilyn James, claimed to have observed an unusual radiance in the vicinity of Medicine Bow Forest at the same time the posse was making its way towards the missing hunter. Not too long after, the baffled officers are astounded to find Higdon's 2-wheel drive truck bumper deep in a mud-filled sinkhole in the centre of a forest ravine that was impenetrable by motor vehicles.
Cunts, man.
Yeah. In fact, the conditions were so bad that the police were forced to make the final leg of the journey by foot.
Is that it there?
That's it there, yeah.
There's a picture we're looking at. And it is stuck in the mud, isn't it?
A good foot down, definitely.
Yeah.
Probably more than that. They're probably 20-inch rims at least on that.
Oh, snow.
It looks like it's a raised truck, isn't it? It's not a 4x4, but...
You're talking good foot and a half under snow.
Even more perplexing was the fact there were no tyre tracks leading into the bog. The sheriff and his men could not comprehend how Higdon has managed to get his pickup truck stuck there, and judging from the circumstance, it would have had to have been dropped from above. It seemed to defy rational logic.
See, this is the best bit of evidence.
That's the only bit of evidence.
Yeah, you're right.
That's the only bit of evidence, yeah.
Well, yeah,
100%.
because up to this point,
It's all
we're
what he
talking
said.
in what he said, and for all we know, he just took some drugs off a random hunter in the field, got off his tits.
Yeah.
The fact there's no tyre tracks leading into this impassable terrain that the police can't get their 4-wheel trucks into, and he's in a... You know, it's like a bit of a... It's a 2-wheel... It's a pickup truck, but it's 2-wheel drive. Well, and there's no tracks. How do you get in?
And for that to have been that much snow, surely there'd be some record of that. Like, oh yeah, there was this mad fucking snowdrift that put 2 foot of snow down in 2 hours.
Yeah.
There would have been some record of that, surely.
As if things weren't bizarre enough, when they finally managed to pry the still terrified Higdon from the truck, he was shrieking that they took my elk! He even failed to recognise his own wife.
He's in trouble.
He's definitely in trouble.
You got that fucking
Claire,
correct.
if you found your husband in a seemingly impossible situation in a pickup truck, screaming, they took my elk, and not recognising you, what would you do?
I'd be like, oh, I think he's mental.
Take him away! Put the white coat on him now!
He's gonna need some help, isn't he?
I'd say so. Deputies quickly packed the hunter and his wife into one of their vehicles, while the rest of the police were confronted with the puzzle of how to get the seemingly impossibly tracked pickup truck out of the bog. Eventually they created a sort of bridge with fallen trees and finally managed to tow the truck from the shallow ravine and down the dirt paths that would have proven impossible to navigate with a 2-wheel drive truck. Higdon later described the situation, saying, using tow equipment I was hauled out. They immediately took me to the nearest hospital where I was placed into day and night observation. Not until the following evening did I begin to regain my memory and start to recall a few details of my ordeal. Sheriff's deputies wasted no time in transporting the frantic hunter and his wife to the Carbon County Memorial Hospital in Rawlins, where he was admitted at 2:30 a.m. The doctors on staff noticed his eyes were extremely bloodshot and he seemed to be suffering from nervous exhaustion, not to mention the injuries he'd sustained during his fall into the gully because of careless teleportation. Scotty never made that mistake.
He didn't.
Following an extensive series of medical tests, the doctors noticed that despite Higdon's clearly injured and anxious condition, his blood was extraordinarily nutrient and vitamin rich. Even more peculiar was the fact that in 1958, Higdon had been hospitalised after he came into contact with tuberculosis, and at the time X-rays showed a significant amount of scarring on his lungs. Be that as it may, the X-rays that were taken following his presumably intergalactic expedition in 1974 showed that no scar tissue on his lungs and his doctor, one R.C. Tongo. I'm Dr.
That's
R.C.
funny.
Because it reminds me of the Sunny in Philadelphia one, Dr. Mantis Toboggan. So, I'm Dr. R.C. I'm Dr. R.C. Tongo. You know, like just. Even noted that some painful kidney stones which have been plaguing the hunter were no longer evident. The mystified Dr. Tongo even stated that he's now in A1 super condition.
If Dr. Tongo says
I want some of them pills.
believe it. Yeah.
Me too. Absolutely.
Sound good.
That's incredible, isn't it?
Must be the food pills and supplement, you know.
I want to hear
Do you
this
believe the
guy.
story, then?
I want to hear that this guy's still alive now.
Claire's a believer.
It's one for Claire.
He's still alive.
He's still alive, is he?
I don't know. Might tell us.
I actually don't know. I never found out if he was. It's 1974.
70s, so that's 50 years ago.
Alright, fact check
Nearly.
it. See if he can.
Obviously,
What's his name?
he'd been working for 20
Carl Higdon.
years, so he'd have been 40 then, so he'd be 90 odd now.
Even if he's dead, he might have lasted a lot longer than he should have. I mean, if you've got tuberculosis scarring on your lungs, you get the flu, that's pneumonia straight away, isn't it? Near enough, if you get a bad case of flu.
Yeah.
That ain't going well. Despite his new and improved organs, though, the still petrified oil man remained incoherent throughout the night and, according to most reports, did not manage to reclaim his memories until the following day when his daughter came to visit him. It was then that he regaled his wife, doctors and police officers of this harrowing run-in with Ausso One and his unnamed co-pilot and their journey to another world. While it's difficult to imagine that his rapt audience, consisting of both loved ones and authority figures, were not at least sceptical, this did nothing to prove the deputies from informing the press and local ufologists about Higdon's wild adventure. Marjorie, his wife, however, claimed that she never once doubted the sincerity of her husband's strange tale, later telling reporters from the Star Tribune, "I believed him because it was him, and because I was out there and saw a lot of different things that went on that night."
Some lights in the sky.
And the truck in her.
Okay, that was weird, yeah.
Yeah. Although his innards showed a marked upgrading, Higdon's appetite did not return for days, a fact he attributed to Ausso One's miraculous pills.
Well, he said it lasts 4 days, didn't he?
Yeah? And he grumbled about sharp pains in the base of his skull and neck, claiming he felt as if his body had been treated like an accordion. That's where you get the fall,
Wow,
though,
that's
in all fairness.
Human accordion.
Human accordion. It'd have to be like a toddler, wouldn't it?
Wow.
A good sort of, 3, 4 foot... It'd be a toddler, wouldn't it? If you were to use a human as an accordion. Something about 3 foot... human about 3 foot tall, that's a toddler, mate.
Or a hobbit.
Hobbits aren't real, Pete. I'm sorry to break this to you.
Well, they are real, but they died out, didn't they? They found a skeleton, didn't they? They found some skeletons.
Alright, then, if we want a human accordion now, we've got to use a toddler. I'm
Or a
sorry.
dwarf.
That's just sick, Mike.
What I'm doing to a toddler's Tell these two don't have kids, can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't you?
Anyway,
I just imagine an alien metal band with one bloke with a human accordion. That's fucking awesome.
a bit like Dusk Till Dawn, where he's playing that
Oh, yeah, the
guitar
human-
made out of
The human bass, yeah. God, I love that movie.
Yeah.
It's mainly because of Salma Hayek, though, to be fair. It's pretty much the only reason that I really... No, it's a great movie,
It's a
but
great film.
Salma Hayek.
That's the highlight, isn't
It
it?
is, isn't it? Oof. After 3 days of observation, the swiftly recovering outdoorsman was released from the hospital and into the care of his wife and family. Let's go back to the bullet. You remember that bullet? Mm-hmm. Got a picture of it there.
Looks a bit mangled.
Does look mangled, doesn't it?
It does. Looks really mangled.
Battered, didn't it?
Now Higdon was still at a loss to explain the force which had managed to so thoroughly damage the bullet, and he took the case into the sheriff's office. According to Higdon, "I'd never seen anything like it before to compare it to. As soon as I could, I took it to the Carbon County Sheriff's Department, where the officer in charge of ballistics analysis examined it through a microscope. He told me that it was from a 7mm Magnum rifle, which is the calibre of my gun. Returning the chunk of metal, he noted he had never seen a bullet in that shape or condition.
Not after hitting something.
Bullets tend to mushroom out when they impact. That is not mushroom
Well,
out.
no. It's more like it's been hit with a hammer.
It literally looks like it's hit. If that's the rear, look at the picture now. That's your firing pin right there. The indentation where the firing pin strikes. That is the head of the bullet. It looks like a fucking hammer.
Yeah.
Bullets mushroom, don't they? That's not. That's hammered. That's like it's literally hit a brick wall.
Well, it depends on ricochet and things like that, though, doesn't it?
It does, but he's in the woods.
Yeah,
What's it ricocheting off in the woods?
But that's how I describe that. It looks like a ricocheted bullet, one that's hit something a few times with great impact on each hit.
Yeah.
And it's damaged it on different
bullets.
Sides.
Yeah.
But fucking well unusual.
But then again, we should also, according to this show, they found a couple of bullets at Gallipoli, the old Gallipoli battlefield from World War One, where they collided in mid-air and one impaled the other.
Mental.
And one what? The other?
One had impaled the other.
Yeah.
And they'd both fallen down, stuck in almost like a cross shape.
Yeah. X shape, yeah.
No, an X shape, yeah.
I've seen a picture of it, it's fucking...
What kind of impact that would create, like...
Whichever one got the most kinetic force at the impact, so presumably the one coming in sideways, that would drive it back into someone's head, for all you know.
No, I wonder if it would create its own little shockwave or something with
the
impact of the two.
You get some bullet time off that, mate.
I'm just trying to think of...
spark in the air, like...
There's got to be something, isn't there, with those two... The velocity meeting velocity like that, because normally it's velocity meeting stillness.
There's more than one occasion where back in the day where cannonballs collided in mid-air.
That's more believable because they're big.
They are, but you've always got less of them.
It's got to happen,
individual bullets, haven't you?
Mate, guarantee that's happened throughout all the wars that's ever been. There will have been, when there's been hundreds and thousands of bullets getting fired at once.
And everyone's in a line, remember?
It's got to be the odd one that's...
But remember, they're not doing that in World War One. Yeah, they're in the trenches, they're shoulder to shoulder-ish, but the bullets are stronger, powerful, They wouldn't. The other point is they haven't flattened. They've just gone straight through, haven't they? Pierced a bullet. It's mental, really. The sheriff inspected the water bullet and claimed he'd never seen its equal, and he was convinced that it was impossible to hammer the bullet into its existing shape, and felt that the bullet had probably not hit a solid object like a tree or a rock. The copper jacket had been turned inside out, and the lead slug was missing. He later wrote, "It looks as if it had been turned inside out by a superhuman being."
The sheriff.
That's what the sheriff says. The Aerial Phenomena Research Organisation, or APRO, sent metallurgy consultant Dr. Walter Walker to inspect the jacket, and after a rigorous examination of the object, he testified that it had collided with an unexceptionally solid surface with immense force. The assertion is not to be underestimated. As a 7mm bullet travels at such a fantastic rate of speed, it could not have been nigh well impossible to track the casing down had it not hit something incredibly hard, much harder than a rock or a tree.
So it must have hit his invisible, translucent box.
Yeah.
That must be the explanation for that then, because the way he described it all, it appeared behind him.
This is big though. This is physical evidence of something that can't be explained. He said, "I fired the gun, fired my rifle, and there was no kick, and the bullet just dropped after 50 metres. So it must have hit some kind of force field or something, if we're going to believe that." And the fact that he has the actual physical bullet there, and the sheriff and the ballistic expert and the metallurgy expert are saying, "Well, this looks a bit hard."
Yeah.
Then that's definitely that's physical evidence in an alien abduction case.
Well, hang on. It's not physical evidence of an abduction.
No, but it's
It's a piece
magic.
of physical evidence to suggest something.
From an abduction case.
Something else could be happening.
What else could be happening?
It's lots of unexplained physical evidences. unexplainable physical evidence, I
Yeah.
suppose, isn't it? With that, the car, that's two
straight
pretty
away.
inexplicable.
That's high strangeness is what that is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very
I love that
strange.
expression. High strangeness. In the APRO Bulletin, Volume 23, Number 5, which is published in March 1975, investigators were planning on organising a search party in order to find the lead slug of the 7mm in the hopes that it might produce additional evidence of what it had impacted against. Quoted from the report, after the snow melts, an attempt will be made to locate the lead slug from the bullet and hopefully we'll be able to add something to a very puzzling story. Unfortunately, the search party failed to come to fruition, or if it did, their efforts were met with naught, leaving the mangled bullet casing as the only physical evidence in support of Higdon's account. Despite the lack of corroborating proof, on October 29th, 1974, the Rawlins Daily Times published an account of Higdon's extraordinary experience, and from there the story spread like wildfire. Like many abductees, or in this case invitee,
Okay.
Kind of.
he was invited.
He felt like he had no choice but to accept, didn't he?
Well, true. Higdon claimed to have had only a partial memory of his close encounter of the weird kind. He recalled his bullet hitting the invisible barrier, meeting the alien and entering the clear cubicle with the elk. But after that his recollections became hazy. And due to the success the team had had with their method in the past, the APO investigators suggested the distressed huntsman undergo hypnotic regression in order to reclaim his lost memories and hopefully put himself at ease with the reality of what happened to him. Hypnosis, anyone down for hypnosis?
Not sure.
I've seen the shows where they get them to do stupid things on, on stage, and then they wake up. They're like,
Until I see it,
I
it's
haven't
one of
seen it
those,
face
isn't
to
it?
face,
Yeah.
though.
Do you think it can be used to unlock parts of the human memory that may have been blocked or repressed?
potentially.
I think so. I think the evidence is there to suggest maybe.
I think it depends on which session you listen to
They
and
use
who's
it in
doing
court
the hypnosis.
cases and all sorts, don't
They
they?
do, but it's just like a lie detector. It's not
It's not
proof,
100%.
is it?
No.
I'm always a little sceptical of hypnosis because I think it can be you're putting someone into this trance-like state, which I think
Power of
does.
suggestion.
Which
isn't
does,
it?
I think, it's a lot of it's down to power of suggestion.
Yeah.
If you say, they say, "Oh, I saw a bright light in the sky," or "What did the spaceship look like?" It's a leading question. I've heard tapes like that before, where
That's-
the hypnosis can unwittingly lead someone in a trance state into giving answers that.
But it might not be memories they're unlocking, it might be a dream.
That's
It's been
also
stored
true,
in the-
you're right,
in the
yeah.
memory, so I think they can unlock stuff, but whether it's actually reality, I'm not sure.
Factual or not.
I mean,
Yeah.
you can still. I mean, if people say, "Well, what about the emotions people experience when they're undergoing these things?" It's like they're undergoing them again. But if you're having a particularly vivid dream that you forgot about, you would be undergoing that emotional trauma
Yeah.
again, wouldn't you? If you're dreaming you're being examined by greys and having your eyeball popped out and something shoved up your arse, you're going to be in quite emotional trauma during that dream and reliving that.
I think
once
Mike
it's
would
been
be
unlocked.
enjoying it.
Well, he might enjoy it, yeah. But the rest of us would be like, "Oh no, not for me."
I think it's interesting, like the past, when they do past lives.
Ah, well, see, I don't think I believe in that. That's stretching it a bit too far for me.
Well, they come round, they know nothing about what they've said.
You find that a lot of it relates to something that they're usually quite passionate about or have had an experience of recently. My favourite one
They're
was
always
the.
someone important in history.
That's also another fact. It's like, "Oh yeah, I was Caesar in a past life." It's
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, you and 53 others, mate."
Yeah, no one's a peasant who
Yeah, you never hear anyone. "Oh, I was a dung
starved
peasant."
to death. Do you know what I mean? It's generally
It's always someone interesting.
Yeah.
Like, "Oh, I was a. I
Viscount.
was a peasant, but a local lord found me
Yeah.
attractive, so I was taken. Died giving birth to his child or something like that." It's my favourite one I ever read of past life regression was like this little kid and he was drawing a cockpit of a World War II fighter plane, and he'd come up with this little story. And I was like, "Oh my God, how did he get that?" They put him under hypnosis, and he regressed to this little story about him being a fighter pilot and he'd been shot down. And then he realised it turned out 3 weeks ago he'd been to the Air Force Museum and sat in a cockpit. He's drawing that stuff from memory and come up with a little story in his head. Of being a kid, he'd recounted to his parents, who then freaked out and thought he'd been reincarnated. Yeah. Higdon agreed to the hypnosis session on November 2nd, 1974. APRO consultant and professor of psychology at the University of Wyoming, Dr. R. Leo Sprinkle, spent over 4 hours with the Higdons and their children discussing what had happened as well as their responses to it.
It's a great name.
Sprinkle, yeah, it's fantastic. A trained hypnotherapist and former UFO skeptic who had allegedly investigated thousands of alien abduction cases. I think I may have heard his name before somewhere in a previous episode. Sounds familiar because you don't forget a name like Sprinkle.
No.
Do you?
It's not one since I've been doing it, because that's not a name I'd have forgotten.
No, that's it. You can't forget that name. He was a former skeptic. He had investigated thousands of alien abduction cases and believed that he himself was a victim. A bit of bias.
Yeah.
Bit of bias maybe
now.
in that, maybe somewhere. He was assisted by MUFON field investigators Rick Kenyon and Robert Nanks. Sprinkle employed the classic pendulum technique in order to elicit hidden information from Higdon, but his efforts were met with disappointment. So some people you can't hypnotise. I've been to one of these stages at someone's birthday party, and some people just went, nope, not working for me, and got up and fucked off.
Yeah.
Does depend on your...
Darren Brown does it, doesn't he? And you have to be receptive.
Yeah, you have to be open to the idea. You can't go up there with any doubt in your mind, basically. So I'd be no good.
Yeah.
Because I'd be like, not convinced.
Well, it's all to do with power of the mind. So if your mind is already being empowered to be like, this ain't gonna fucking happen, you're blocking it.
Yeah.
That's what I mean, yeah.
Whether you know it or not.
Yeah, well, you always come down on one side of the fence the other most of the time, unless you're Mike. But, you know, it's like, that's what I mean. If I go up there and go, I think this is a bit bollocks, my mind's already blocked to it.
Yeah.
You know, if Claire goes up and says, yeah, I'm up for this, bring it on.
I'll be quacking like a duck on stage.
You'll be quacking like a duck. Who knows what else she'll be
Eating
doing.
onions like an apple.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, it's big. It took a bit of a dark turn, the old stage hypnotism at one point, didn't it?
Did it?
Yeah, you got people performing sex acts on each other and stuff like that.
What?
I never heard that.
Yeah, well, it's not on mainstream telly, but on stage shows, yeah. Yeah, there's reporters in the press that they're like, you know...
Was this Darren Brown?
No, it's like fucking Psychic Sam in the back of a pub, innit? You know, those kind of shows. Everyone's a bit boozy and just like doing shit for shits and giggles.
Right.
They still would have had to hypnotise them, wouldn't they?
Well, that's it, but once they're under, then it's parasuggestion, isn't it?
Getting him to suck
Getting him to suck a dick, who knows?
whoever's toe or something.
Over 2 weeks later, on November 17th, Sprinkle took another crack at it, utilising alternative hypnotic methods, and this time he was not thwarted. While many modern investigators take an understandably dim view regarding the validity of hypnotic regression, it's important to note that unlike many similar cases, Higdon had a conscious memory of his alien encounter before he was put under. And that is a reasonable point, might lend a little credibility to the account. Because he remembers meeting the alien and then he's got the memory blank.
Yeah.
So that's something, unless it was someone in fucking fancy dress that gave him drugs.
Yeah, well, he fell asleep in his truck and he dreamed it all.
How do you get the truck there?
It was a high school
hurricane.
prank.
Tornado.
A tornado just picked it up and popped it down there.
Yeah, that's what I'm going for.
With no broken tree branches and
Yeah,
just
he
devastated
Dorothy-
woodland.
He Dorothy'd it.
He just Dorothy'd it straight down.
That's it.
Right, okay.
He landed on a witch.
That's why he's got those curly shoes.
Oh, I went to an alien planet and you were there and you and me.
And those teenagers over there. Under hypnosis, Higdon was able to record his trip to Ausso One's homeworld in minute detail. He revealed to all those observing the session that the straw-headed alien and its kin were searching for food and used the earth as sort of a game preserve where they came to hunt and fish, not unlike a more friendly version of predators.
They're nicking the fish, though.
Yeah. According to Higdon, breeding was also the reasons why human beings were being brought to the alien world. He was under the impression the aliens had harvested these primarily young humans in order to use them in some kind of propagation program that he did not suit their purpose, probably because, as I said, he'd had a vasectomy. To quote him, maybe this is what they meant when they said I wasn't any good. I kind of sensed they wanted young people. At the end of their hypnotic session, Sprinkle eased Higdon from his trance with the instructions that he would retain his memories of Ausso One and their expedition, but would no longer fear said recollections. Later, Sprinkle would write in his official report on the case, although the sighting of a single UFO witness is difficult to evaluate, the indirect evidence supports a tentative conclusion that Carl Higdon is reporting sincerely the events which he experienced. Hopefully further statements of other persons can be obtained to support the basic statement.
What other persons?
If there's any other eyewitnesses to, let's say for example that there was
pedo
lights in the
was there,
sky.
wasn't it? And the kids.
Well,
Maybe if they come forward.
If they come forward, if they drop them off, you'd be looking at like any radar, anything from that night, witnesses to strange occurrings, high strangeness
There
in
was
the
that
area.
couple that saw something weird in the sky.
Yeah, so that you'd be looking at that kind of evidence to corroborate something happening in that area. People around it seeing shit. Or even if you're very lucky, the Air Force will admit they caught something on radar. Like the Washington UFO flap.
Yeah.
Higdon, though, was still a nervous wreck about the entire affair and claimed that for weeks following the trip, he was followed by a colossal green light in the sky. Some ufologists speculated that it might have been the extraterrestrials keeping a watch on their quarry, much like modern scientists tracking a tagged bear. 4 years later, in September of 1978, Higdon was subjected to what was then one of the most advanced polygraph tests available, the PSE, which is the Psychological Stress Evaluator device. The test was presided over by a technical consultant for the LAPD, Dr. Greenberg, and his colleague, Dr. Sidney Walter. The scientists ascertained that the former hunter was giving a truthful account of what happened, and Greenberg concluded, I am forced to admit that something utterly fantastic did happen in this man's life. The test proves it beyond doubt. And if that's the fucking thing they've got him strapped up to, he's like in a surgical chair with a thing over his chest and...
It was like an X-ray machine.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely going to catch you out if you're lying. Look at it, fucking hell.
It's going to brain your skeleton as well, isn't it?
It's a really tanned man.
I don't think that's just. I think it's just a random picture.
I think you might be right there, because there's no way that's the dude. I just want to say here that lie detectors are not evidence.
No.
Can we all agree on that?
Yep.
Listener, I'm sorry, no matter what you believe,
They can be cheated.
they can be cheated. They are not evidence. They are not. We got to look at things if they stand up in court,
And they don't.
and lie detectors do not. Come at me, bro, if you feel something different. The evidence in this strange case is circumstantial at best, and there are no corroborating eyewitnesses who saw anything more significant than a few random lights in the sky, and even the celebrated bullet only shows it hit something hard. Although harder than a rock or a tree, I'm guessing. The bullet's the one bit, and the truck are the two best bits of evidence, aren't they?
Yeah. Because he was looking right at the elk, whatever stopped it. Was
Yeah.
bloody
In
invisible.
between them.
That's it. He's aiming through a scope at the elf. He's
The elf.
elf. Yeah, I'd love to hunt fucking little Santa elves. Not like elves from Lord of the Rings, but definitely.
Because
Like
ones
little-
that- yeah,
they
ones
kick
that-
your ass.
Yeah, ones that can't fight back.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Little 2 foot elves.
Because
Santa.
they're that fucking overpowered, they can swing off their fucking saddle on a horse and dodge fucking anything, it doesn't matter, wouldn't it? No matter how good the show was. God, fucking terrible show. I've said it.
Fair enough. It's your opinion, isn't it? It's alright.
Oh,
Better than The Hobbit.
yeah, but my first shit of the day is better than the Hobbit.
The book was brilliant. Shame the films were shit.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy the films that much. I've never watched them again.
I've
no,
never watched them. It's not my... I prefer House of the Dragon, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, that is good.
Nevertheless, there are a few elements above and beyond Higdon's fascinating sketches regarding this case that have a way of nagging on even the most sceptical of minds. The first thing that comes to mind is how the permanent scars on the inside of Higdon's lungs simply vanished without trace.
I bet that,
Yeah. Well, we did.
That was them good healthy food pills.
Yeah. Investigators claim to have seen before and after x-rays that seem to confirm this seemingly miraculous healing process, which left doctors baffled, especially Dr. Tongo, sorry. If this curative process was not instigated by the alien visitor, then what might have been responsible for the cure? And the second, no harder to verify factor that lends the credibility of the hunter's account is the state in which his company truck was discovered by his rescuers. If reports are to be believed, then there is simply no way Higdon could have moved the vehicle to the place where it was discovered with the aid of a military helicopter. As to why his otherwise polite host would leave him in such a muddy lurch is a matter of debate. Probably because he's like a fucking Jaffa.
He's useless.
He's a stunt, yeah. Maybe. There is a possibility that he met some CIA in the woods and they MK Ultra'd him and dropped his car off in a wooded clearance, filmed his entire acid trip and then fucked off and left him there. Could have been an MK Ultra experiment.
CIA in the woods.
MK Ultra, Mike.
That could have explained being fucking chopper lights, couldn't it? And that could have just been strapped in and on the bottom of the chopper, lifted up, 5 clicks over there,
Mate,
drop it down.
It's the 70s. Makeup's come a long way. Maybe they're just fucking with people doing MK Ultra trials on random people. Maybe that's what every single alien abduction case is. The CIA MK Ultraing somebody just for the lols. No, actually, I'm over the alien theory, obviously. We're just throwing that out there as a hypothesis. It's interesting. Watch that space.
Or they were staging these things for the disclosure.
Maybe, but then why rednecks?
Because it's always rednecks.
Very slow
It's always
disclosure.
Very
rednecks.
slow disclosure.
It's always rednecks that bloody see all the Sasquatch and things like that. Like, they're always unbelievable stories because of that. Yeah, well, I saw this big creature. It was coming down the hill.
Not a week goes by where he doesn't mention Bigfoot. I do listen back, I log it. I mentally log it.
I will keep mentioning him until we're allowed to do an episode on him.
Yeah.
Again. One with somebody that actually believes.
I do. He's the most likely cryptid. Anyway, back to Higdon. Of course, there's always a possibility that Higdon made up the whole tale after he got the company truck stuck while playing hooky from work. Perhaps you assumed you'd better off making a patently outlandish story about alien abduction rather than fess up to having made a mistake while traipsing in the forest where he should have been working.
Do you know what? I'd forgotten the fact that he'd played hooky that day, essentially. Mm-hmm. So, maybe that is even more like, oh shit, my car's broke down, I've got it in a right fucking stick. Now my boss is going to definitely hear that I was here. Oh,
just
bollocks.
The possibility that he went in the woods, got fucking wasted, drove his truck into this fucking thing somehow by a fucking
There
miracle.
was no trail.
He was there. We have a massive snowstorm. I don't know. We only saw it stuck in the ravine. We didn't see the outsides of it. Were the tracks covered? Was he just off it? Well, maybe he just went in the woods to do drugs. Maybe he fired at, I don't know. Maybe he met this Australian guy who gave him some drugs and maybe he was going to go camping and hunting and.
I think he'd have mentioned that, the first guy had given him a tab.
Well, he's taken a pill off him, hasn't he?
Don't take that pill orally. I've got a much better way. You can take that pill.
No!
Gently place it on my tongue. Now pull down your trousers.
It gently places the pill on its tongue.
Before he takes his trousers
Then it
down.
gets the hose again. To begin with, Higdon's employee called in sick before he decided to pack it in and go hunting. Also, he was the boss, and would certainly have had to have concocted a more reasonable falsehood if he had to. Lastly, who in their right mind would subject themselves to the kind of public scrutiny and ridicule that invariably follows a report of this nature?
Which is something you always do have to think.
I mean,
why would you say it if it
Yeah.
was bullshit?
Look,
Knowing that everyone like us would be like, what? Fuck off!
Yeah.
Well, it's not just people like us though, is it? It's like, oh, we've got a fucking top
A top man.
man in the field of lie machines, or what are they called? Of the
Polygraph.
Polygraphs.
Yeah.
Right, we got him in. These are two guys who work with the LAPD. Oh, and also, by the way, is a fucking top hypnotist. People are spending time and money to investigate this. They haven't got to just impress the likes of you, us lot.
He might have just wanted attention.
But that's the other thing, he might just want the attention.
He might have had a complete psychotic break
Yeah.
in a midlife crisis, got off into the woods, took a load of drugs, and this is how he fucking justified it to himself.
Tried to get away from his wife by pretending he didn't know who she was. I don't fucking know this woman, she's not part of my life. God damn it.
I mean, he's got
thought I'd get
4
away
kids.
with it.
He's got 4 kids. How much free time does the man get to go in the woods and take some drugs? We've all done it.
That was clearly like a weekend blowout, wasn't it?
You know, it's a possibility. And this time it was just a really bad fucking trip.
He got something off his mate Gary.
Exactly.
That's what it was.
Although-
Gary! They'd given him some fucking...
Can you ever trust a Garrett when you take drugs?
Definitely not.
Now, you know what though? As is show tradition, I actually go for his thing here. I'm mocking it, but
You still believe.
it's a weird one. Let's also say that, you know, it's 1974. You ain't going to start saying this shit about yourself. No oil company's going to employ you.
No.
Again, should you lose your job. And he's a foreman, 20 years, the same company. He could probably walk to another company for more money, his valued skills, blah, blah, blah. No one's going to employ him again after this in 1974. Are they? It's a different time. Add to the undeniable fact that Higdon was well liked and respected by his neighbours, bosses and co-workers, not to mention the effort that would have been involved in creating the performance he would have had to put over his wife and rescue team in the forest, not to mention the nurses, doctors, police and press in the hospital, and it becomes clear that this working class Wyoming man was either one of the greatest actors of the 20th century or very likely the victim of a very bizarre episode.
It's got to be. It is a bizarre episode either way, whether it's drugs or
I
whether
believe
it's aliens.
I believe something happened to him. But I do think it might be more drug-fueled than indicated.
I think Sam the Sundown Clown, there's holes in that story by them because they're kids. What if they were like, more thoroughly drugged by these pills that Sam had given them, took them into his little shack,
And
they went off, they extracted whatever they need to extract and then brought them back and they had no recollection of that?
Yeah, they just didn't manage to keep any of the memory
Yeah.
like he managed.
Yeah. They, maybe because they ran first, he didn't. I don't know. I think there's some real similarities.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you on that, definitely. And maybe they changed their looks
Well, maybe
depending on who they were trying to attract.
yeah, because that one looked slightly more humanoid, but still some weird little similarities. The antenna, the weird head, the arm. I mean, Sam had a stick for a hand, literally a 3-pronged stick. You know, it's interesting. Just saying.
If I had a beard, I would stroke it
I'll
now.
stroke my beard for you, Pete.
That sounded really weird.
It did, didn't it? But
I
I'm
will
gonna do it-
stroke my beard for you, Pete.
But I'm going to do it anyway. Because I enjoy it.
Me too.
Yeah, I think it's curious, I really do. The old man has maintained the veracity of his story throughout his life and is the first to admit that his trip is a difficult pill to swallow. Hey. Even for him. I'd like to think it was just a nightmare, he said, except I know it was real. I've tried to shake my mind clear of all thoughts pertaining to what took place, but frankly, that's totally at the question at this point. Just months after his abduction, Higdon went on to say this about the incident at Medicine Bow Forest. Though I remain apprehensive over the events of last October, I firmly believe the American public is brave enough to accept the truth about such matters. Of course, I wish the whole episode hadn't occurred, but since it did, I don't see any reason to keep it secret. Some folks may think I've gone off my rocker, but to anyone who knows me can tell you I'm not making up any of this. People seem to accept it now. I'm being truthful as I can be. This all really happened.
I believe him now.
Regardless of whether this was a genuine celestial encounter, an elaborate ruse, or the frightful dream of a man who'd taken a nasty spill and was suffering from concussion, or someone who'd met an Australian in the woods and taken a random pill, one overwhelming fact remains. If Carl Higdon had to do it all over again, he would not have stopped and helped these strangers fix their van. Instead, he would have continued on to McCarthy Canyon, where he would have never, ever met a friendly, jawless, drill-handed alien named Ausso One.
So there we go.
That last line is just hilariously bad.
It's weird
That's
as
true.
fuck, innit?
I definitely think there's parallels between that and Sam. Really do.
Well, I'm on the fence.
Oh, of course you're on the fence.
Nah, you're not. Never.
Well, being a scientist, I have to
Claire, fetch the crowbar. Let's get him off the fence.
No, I'm off the fence. I am definitely. I'm on the. This ain't happening. It's just as silly as the Sandown claim one.
Wow.
Claire's not a believer. Pete?
Too many flaws in it for me. All basing down to his spunk and things like that.
Yeah.
There's too many.
You're just sort of hung up over the semen examination.
Nah, I just think, like I said, if they're so far advanced, they wouldn't have spent so much effort to just go, oh shit, he's got his bollocks chopped.
But it might not have been that. It might have just been old sperm. Because they wanted young people, didn't they? You think?
Surely, again,
Maybe
their
it was
advancements, they'd have gone, oh, this guy's clearly 50 years old. He's a little bit past it compared to that young spring buck that we found the other week. Okay, we'll leave this one. It just, the little flaws in that, I'm afraid. If they were that hyper intelligent to be getting here, doing what they're doing, I call bullshit.
What about the miraculous improvement in his physical health?
How'd you explain that?
Maybe a couple of nice nights out in the cold.
Or
You know?
cure the...
Yeah,
Scarring on his lungs.
Yeah, sorting him right out. That could have just been, yeah, but when's the last time that
Like
scarring
Dr.
was
P.
actually seen and noted? As a kid.
Yeah, he'd had examinations after the TB, where X-rays, after after the TB.
Yeah,
That
so-
that scarring's on the lungs, and then he'd have X-rays after that said that scarring's not there anymore.
Scars can heal.
They can, but
So,
they always seem to leave some.
He's probably in his mid-40s towards his 50s, around that kind of age, yeah? So, as a kid, you're talking 30...
Well, you're talking as a kid, you're talking as an adult. aren't we?
he had tuberculosis as a kid, which
Yeah, right,
gave him
okay.
scarring on his lungs.
I'll guarantee
So-
that goes smoked.
At 30 years plus, that scarring could have well cleared
Maybe.
up. If he was a
Maybe.
non-smoker, which was unusual in them days,
Yes, that's true.
which they wouldn't expect, they wouldn't expect it to heal, because every evidence they've ever had, it doesn't heal, look at him. But he's a non-smoker, potentially.
They do say that every 7 years you're a different person.
Yeah, I was Dave for about 7.5 years ago.
Davina, you mean? I was
After
Davina.
7 years, every cell in your body is...
Renews, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like your skin cells, it's the same.
So yeah, alright, if he's never smoked and he had it as a kid,
There is a
then
good chance.
maybe.
And
maybe.
I don't know, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know
quite
for
a good
certain.
chance of that.
But they seemed astonished by it. The doctors.
Yeah, but doctors
Dr. Tango.
50
The
years
Tongo.
ago, doctors would have been astonished by that, because fucking X-rays weren't that brilliant in the.
I think you got to look at it as if it's the 70s, not many people are getting TB in the 70s. If he had it in the 50s, and a doctor in the 50s would be more familiar with that disease than someone in the 70s who's never really had to deal with it or the after effects.
Yeah. But
So
no,
I mean,
I do think that
tend to focus on diseases you see every day, don't you?
Yeah.
there is explanations for that. No problem whatsoever. Just the fact that
What about the bullet?
The bullet's an odd one.
it fuck you, it rock.
Nah, but it's mushroom though. That was hammered.
Could have
You know, like
ricochet. But it wasn't the tip of the bullet. It wasn't the fucking bullet, was it?
No, they
It was
never found the
bullet
lead part. No,
It was the case. So that was unusual in itself. So there was obviously a misfire in the chamber of his
Could have been.
rifle, which is why it didn't act like it should have acted. And instead of ejecting the case out the side like it would normally, the case somehow got ejected through the barrel, and because it got ejected
Wouldn't
through
fit,
the
did
barrel,
it?
because it
Yeah,
wouldn't fit,
got
it
mangled.
got mangled up on the
Yeah.
way through.
Could be,
That's
maybe.
the explanation
there is
for
a
that.
tremendous amount of pressure behind
Fucking tremendous,
one
mate.
of those, especially a big round like that, a big rifle.
Claire,
elk
Claire,
hunting
you,
round.
you fired
Yeah,
rifles.
yeah,
You know you
You fired.
understand that.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
But then a ballistics expert has said that it's weird.
If it had
I've never said
misfired,
anything like
it would have
it.
mangled
I-
up the barrel as
do you
well.
know that guy?
That's the,
No.
the other thing is as
Well, you're
well.
gonna
Do you
faith, aren't
know
we?
he's an expert?
No, we're going on faith, aren't we?
Exactly.
The other thing we have to look at as well is that no one fired. Did anyone fire that rifle again, using the ammunition he took with him that day?
But
That's the
also,
other thing.
you can't just take the word off one expert in.
I mean, it could have been.
No, you're right, yeah.
It could have been a really dodgy
Scrutinise everything.
round.
He could have just been thick as fuck. He might have just wigged his way into his job all of his
Well, he's
life.
apparently a ballistics expert for the police department of the area. So you have to imagine he's got some qualification. And if he says, "Do you know what? This is a weird one."
This is the American police we're talking
Yeah,
about.
but he's
here.
going to college and do forensics and ballistics.
This is
and all that,
American
isn't it?
college we're talking about. Okay, come on.
No,
this is
no,
like,
come on,
This is
man.
like equivalent reception for us. I'm joking. I am joking. But it is one person's opinion on that, isn't it?
Well, there is always the possibility he's not a very good ballistic expert.
Precisely. He could have been fucking
There are,
awful at his
there
job.
are various degrees of competence in any job, aren't there?
Yeah.
Just because someone has a doctorate doesn't mean they're a very good doctor.
Alright, what
Something.
about the truck then?
The truck's an odd one, but
He was fucked off his head.
But did he just like?
fucked up, he drunk drove or drug drove, and he didn't want to admit it. He fell down a fucking ditch. He woke up a few hours later a bit, say I got dropped off and fell 9 foot down a ditch.
No,
It
was
wasn't
he-
from
He
that
was
was
he-
at all.
high. He was high up. wasn't
9
he?
feet he fell from.
No, he was dropped on the edge of a ravine like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was dropped
Nine
there
foot,
like
9
that.
foot drop.
Yeah.
So that was a 9 foot drop. So he was dropped there, and as he landed, he lost his footing and he slipped down. That's what it said had happened.
Yeah.
So he didn't drop 9 foot. He just slipped 9 foot down a footing, as he says. Who knows whether that actually happened or whether he was just a drunken idiot. He fucking crashed his car in the worst, most random fucking place, because we've all seen videos on YouTube where people have got their cars into really fucking weird places. You think, how the fuck have they parked the car in that tree? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
We've
yeah.
all seen those kind of... It
We have seen
happens.
those.
Has he gone back to cover up his...
He's gone back to fucking
his
cover up.
tracks.
It could have happened 2 or 3 days prior to this. This
This
day off work that he's all of a suddenly, I had to take a day off because my mate was sick. I was going to be the only person. I call bullshit on that, maybe. He'd pre-planned. He'd already had... This had happened 2 or 3 days ago. He hadn't told his missus that he'd fucking left the car in the middle of the woods because he'd fucking had a silly drunken
It's
crash.
his company car. He hasn't come home, remember? They're finding him in the car.
That's fine.
But he drove
was-
to work. Well, he
No,
did
he
drive
did-
to
he
work. He
drove
drove to go and
Yeah.
hunt elk.
Maybe a couple of days prior to this. This is his cover story for it. He's gone out there in the work
gone a
truck,
day
got
in
pissed up, crashed it and gone, shit, how can I cover this? Oh, I'm going to have to ring in sick tomorrow, I'm going to have to sort this out, I'm going to have to do something.
What you've got to look at is that you met those two dudes, they're like, oh yeah, go this way, it's better.
Has anyone spoken to those 2 dudes
No,
who
that's not-
corroborated
that's
this
not-
story?
You know, he's met these two dudes, he's fixed their car, they said, oh, go this way. Maybe he's taken a wrong turn, managed to somehow to get that fucking, maybe there's firm soil underneath him, up the side of this fucking ravine, which has then plummeted down.
He's jumped a bit. or
He's
something.
like, he's been flung clear through the side window, crashed against the side,
knocked out for a couple
knocked
of
out
hours.
for a few hours, had this mental fucking trip, but that still doesn't explain the bullet casing.
He was driving fast, playing silly buggers, shooting out of his car, going, yeehaw!
You can't fire one of them. You can't fire a rifle that size with that size around in one arm.
And this is why it went so wrong.
Look, I think we can. I mean, obviously,
Who knows? Who
I'm
knows?
down for the alien. Because if I wasn't, I wouldn't be me. It's a damn good possibility.
It's a damn good story.
It's a damn good story. But you can't
could make a
disagree,
Yeah.
right? It was made into a comic book.
It was, yeah.
You can't disagree that the alien abduction scenario in this story is just as likely as any of the other things you took the piss about.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Can you?
It's a strange one.
And it's high strangeness, and something definitely happened to him out there. What it is, we'll never know.
No.
We can say that I think it's up there with the Kelly Hopkinsville encounter for terms of being believable.
Drunken hillbillies shooting owls.
Bloody nipply in here today, I tell you what. I could hang coats on these beauties.
You're a bit cold, are you, Pete?
I am. I'm genuinely a bit chilly. I say that. Oh, bloody hell. It's becoming winter.
Yep, winter's coming.
Oh, God.
Oh,
Going to fight White Walkers.
On that bombshell.
On that bombshell, I've been Ben. Thanks very much for listening. Don't drink the flavour aid. And don't join a cult.
I've been Mike, thanks for listening. Peace out, may the force be with you.
And I've been Claire, keep an open mind, but not so open that it spills out your ears.
And I've been Pete. Aim low but shoot high.